climate-related these challenges, particularly affecting Bangladeshi agricultural productivity and food security. To ensure agricultural productivity and food security, farmers have to adopt climate-resilient agricultural practices. But farmers have limited financial capital. As a result, they are unable to adopt climate-resilient agricultural practices. In this context, easier access to credit is essential. But Bangladeshi rural credit market is highly inefficient and unequal in terms of collateral, maturity period, interest rate, and asymmetric information, as well as farmers' adaptation decision not only depend on institutional factor but also behavioral factor. Question arises: what is the present rural credit market status, and what are the credit constants? How do behavioral factors influence credit access as well as institutional factor, and how this factor, particularly institutional factor as well as behavioral factor, affect adaptation decisions. But there is limited studies in Bangladesh analyze inefficiency and inequality in rural credit market, as well as there is no studies that studies behavioral factors as well as institutional factors. To reduce this gap, these studies have five particular objectives. Firstly, to examine the current trade market inefficiencies in northwestern Bangladesh. Secondly, to identify the main inefficiencies and inequalities in trade market. Thirdly, identify the behavioral factors that affect farmers' adaptation behavior. Fourthly, to assess the combined effect of trade market imperfections along with socioeconomic characteristics and climate vulnerability. And finally, to some policy implication. This map presenting several drought-prone regions in Bangladesh. From these drought-prone regions of Bangladesh, northwestern region has purposely selected due to its climate vulnerability. Among these 8 districts of northwestern region, Latur and Pabna also purposely selected due to its climate vulnerability. A multi-stage random sampling method used to determine 498 sample size. From the 498 sample size, we collected 247 data from Lalpur as well as 251 data set from Ishoti. This Lalpur from Natur and Ishoti from Pabna randomly selected. The conceptual framework. This study has two sides: demand side and credit side. Credit demanded by farmers divided into four categories based on their farm size: small farmer, marginal farmer, small farmer, medium farmer, and large farmer. On the other hand, credit supply divided into particularly three sector: formal institution or formal lender, semi-formal lender, and informal lender. Formal lender, particularly formal banks. Semi-formal lenders includes microfinance institutions. As well, on the followed this informal sector, it does include relatives, friends, and other a lending source. To fulfill objective one, descriptive statistics has performed. Following this objective two, this study used POVIC2S LS instrumental variable model. This is our general form of model. Access to credit is depend on inefficiency, inequality, socioeconomic variable, and climatic variable. As our variable credit access is a binary variable, categorical variable, or dichotomous in nature, so that we have to adopt such a model like linear probability model, logic model, or probability model, or profit model. We adopt profit model for better CTF curve, but access to credit is potential as our dependent variable is access to credit, so there is potential indigeneity problem. To consider indigeneity problem, this study used POVIC2S LS model. To fulfill objective 3, this study used theory of planned behaviors hierarchical regression model. This model has two parts. In first model, the factors of theory of planned behavior, particularly three main factors: attitude toward behavior, subjective norms, and perceived behavior cost. In the second model, along with the three factors of theory of planned behavior, this model will add other some significant variable. To fulfill objective 4, this study used Heckman Profit model. As we mentioned earlier, our access to credit is dependent variable, so there is potential indigeneity problem, as well as there is also sample selection bias problem. To consider sample selection bias problem and to determine farmers' adaptation investment behavior, this study used Heckman-Kovic model divided in two equations, selection equation and outcome equation, depend on their adaptation strategies. Description of data, access to credit. Almost 25% farmers have access to formal credit as formal lender, particularly banks, require collateral, particularly immovable asset. As our most of the farmers are small farmers, so that they have so they don't have immovable asset as a collateral. So it's the descriptive study shows that the credit market is unequal. On the other hand, same formal and formal sector shows similar pattern. In terms of approach to credit research, awareness about credit shows the similar pattern that ensure our rural credit market is inefficient and unequal. The result of COVID 2SLS IV model also ensured that the farmer who have large farm size are more likely to who adopt a loan from formal bank, as more farm size ensure that more collateral requirement, as well as education was the statistically significant. The farmer who have more number of schooling year are more likely to consider loan from formal sector. Similar pattern shows to same formal lender. The farmer who have more group security, as we know that microfinance institutions require collateral as group security. The farmer who have more better group security are more likely to consider loan from same formal sector, as well as informal sector. As informal sector requires personal security in order to get loan from my friends or relative. They require personal security. The farmer who have more personal security are more likely to consider loan from informal sectors. The results of Hickman effect model, selection equation and outcome equation divided into two parts: all strategies and climate related strategies. All strategies including regardless the type of strategy, it might be climate related strategies or general strategies. General strategies include like more irrigation use or more fertilizer use, or on the other hand, climate related strategies like intercropping, mulching, or crop resistant rice varieties. The result of Hickman effect model also shows that the collateral is the main inefficient variable, and farm size is more unequal variable. The marginal farmer are more likely to marginal farmer is more likely to take loan from informal sector. Small farmer, same farmer sector, and large farmer is more likely to take loan from formal sector. To ensure the robustness of our finding, this study conducted multivariate COVID model. The results of multivariate COVID model also ensured that our findings from 2SLS COVID and Hickman COVID model is robust, as well as a multivariate COVID model presents the interrelationship among lenders. As descriptive statistics shows that farmers are taking loans from more than one source. They can take loans from formal sector as well as informal sector. But surprisingly, our results of multivariate commitment show that there is no substitute or complementary relationships among formal and semi-formal, formal and informal, semi-formal and informal sectors. The findings of theory of planned behavior based on hierarchical regression model. For the result of first model, the favorable attitude toward trade sectors or favorable social norms significantly influence farmer behavior toward credit. These we have to look the value of R square. That independent variable describe only 25%. But if we add the other significant variable, particularly the main inefficient and unequal variable, farm size, collateral, and maturity, after added this variable, the value of R square significantly increased to 41%. Based on these findings, this study suggests expand access to credit based on mobile banking, local branches, and flexible corridors, as well as support vulnerable farmers, promote financial literacy and community lending, integrate climate and financial policies, strengthen monitoring on climate finance, and increase behavioral census. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions, but I will be back, after the discussion, right?
Yes.
So now the second presentation, and Ms. Abina VP, PhD student, Center for Economic Studies and Policy, Institute for Social and Economic Change, India, and Ms. Meenakshi Wazir, Professor of Economics, Indian Institute of Technology, Jammu, India. They will be presenting online. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Okay, great. And we are happy that you are here. And our presentation will be on growth after the storm, revisiting the economic impact of natural disaster in lower middle income countries. So I would request Ms. Avina, to present your paper. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, good afternoon to all. My name is Sabina, and I'm a PhD scholar at Center for Economic Studies and Policy, ISET Bangalore. So the title of my paper is Growth After the Storm, Revisiting the Economic Impact of Natural Disasters in Lower Middle Income Countries. So I would like to begin my presentation by highlighting one of the statements made by J.S. Mill regarding natural disasters and economic recovery. He has stated that what has so often excited wonder is the great rapidity with which countries recover from a state of devastation, the disappearance in a short time of all traces of the mischief done by earthquake, floods, hurricanes, and the ravages of war. An enemy lays waste a country by fire and sword and destroys or carries away nearly all the movable wealth existing in it. All the inhabitants are ruined, and yet in a few years after, everything is much as it was before. So the major question here is that does this perspective hold true for all economies, particularly the less developed countries and the nations which are repeatedly struck by natural disasters? Because nowadays disasters are not a rare event; it's very severe and very frequent. So there is a high chance that these less developed economy, these impacts may accumulate over time, and these less developed economies or the countries which are having less resilience capacity may forced to operate in an equilibrium below their pre-disaster growth rate. So, in order to answer this question, we have made a detailed review of literature which covers both the theoretical and empirical literatures. And from the literature review, both the theoretical and empirical literatures were giving some contradictory findings. For instance, the theories which is based on the neoclassical growth model predicts that natural disasters do not affect economic growth in the long run, but the short run growth is possible depending upon its restrictions on the relative endowment of labor and capital. However, the theories which is based on the endogenous growth framework, particularly the Schumpeter's theory of creative destruction, predicts that natural disasters results in a productivity effect through embodied technical progress, and in literature it is often referred to as build back better mechanism. Similar to the theoretical arguments, empirical findings are also contradictory around three major arguments. The first is that it creates positive externality to the economy through productivity effect, and the second is that it create lasting negative impact, and this impact even persists into the long term. And the last is that natural disasters don't have any impact on economic growth, particularly it won't affect growth in the long run. From the literature review, we found that recently there is relatively few but a large number of studies analyze the economic impact of natural disasters. However, the results are contradictory with each other, even though all the analysis based on the same data source. So it may be because the differential impact of natural disasters across sectors and types. So there is a need for a broader understanding on this area. So this research contribute to this line of literature by addressing the following research question. First, what is the impact of natural disasters on economic growth? How do they affect the agricultural and non-agricultural sector? Are there any heterogeneous effect in the disaster growth relationship across different disaster type? Secondly, do natural disasters have only short-term effect, or do their impacts persist into the medium term and change the post-disaster growth rates? So this is the framework of the study, so which shows the four possible ways through which natural disaster affects economic growth. So in all these scenarios, there is a downturn in economic activity followed by natural disaster. So here T is the year of disaster. And in scenario 1 and scenario 2, though the recovery pattern is different, the economies are going back to their pre-disaster growth rate. However, so that is in line with the neoclassical framework. So in the scenario 3, though economies are trying to recover, but they will operate into a below pre-disaster growth rates. So it might be the possibility of those countries which are repeatedly struck by natural disasters and are having limited capacity to recover. And scenario 4 is in support of Schumpeter's creative destruction. So even though there is an downturn in economic activity followed by natural disasters, due to better reconstruction activities, there is a growth overshoot, and these economies operate above their pre-disaster growth rates. So coming on to the data and methodology, for the analysis, we employed a panel data of 53 lower middle income countries for the period 1980 to 2024. And all the data related to natural disasters were taken from emergency event database, and the data related to development indicators and governance indicators were taken from the World Bank. And these all are the list of the countries. And regarding the quantification of natural disasters, so following IMF 2003, we measure the severity of natural disasters by using a human loss index, by combining people affected, including killed, by giving appropriate weights. And a disaster is considered to be large if the human loss exceeds the mean value of 0.784. And in terms of empirical methodology, we used in a twofold empirical methodology. The first one is system generalized method of moments. So this we used for the standard dynamic growth regression framework, and which addresses the endogeneity concerns arising because of the reverse causality of the growth determinants, and which will capture the short-term impact of natural disasters. However, one limitation of that is that it won't be able to capture the counterfactual scenario, or what would be the economic growth in the absence of natural disasters. So to see that, and also to see the recovery path following major disaster events, we used an alternative method called event study methodology. So here in the event study methodology, we will be focusing only on large natural disasters, and we'll be considering a specific time frame, that is 11 years, that is 5 years before and 5 years after disasters, and how the economic growth responds to these disasters, and how these economies recover from that. So due to the paucity of time, I'm just moving on to the results and all. So regarding the robustness check, we have made several refinements to ensure the robustness of the results, and these all are the descriptive statistics, stationary t-test results and all. So coming on to the results, so this table shows the estimated coefficients from the system GMM regression results, and where consistent with the existing literature, which state that natural disasters negatively affects economic growth. Our findings also shows that disaster severity is having a negative and statistically significant relationship with overall economic growth, as well as the agricultural and industrial sector growth. However, its impacts on service sector, though it's coming negative, but it's not statistically significant. And regarding the growth effect of natural disasters by types, we found that as expected, flood and drought is having a negative and statistically significant relationship with overall economic growth as well as agricultural growth. However, storm shows a negative and statistically significant relationship with overall growth as well as the agricultural and industrial sector growth. And we couldn't find much difference in the disaster impacts across Asian and African countries. As it is like the overall results, it's also showing the negative and statistically significant results. Coming on to the recovery path or the effect of large natural disasters, This table shows the GDP per capita growth and level around large natural disasters in lower middle income countries. It's an average picture. So each dot shows a simple average of GDP per capita growth and level. And T is the year of disaster, and T minus 1 to T minus 5 is the 5 years before disaster, and T plus 1 to T plus 5 is the 5 years after disaster. So the short term decline in economic growth followed by natural disasters is represented by the difference between the solid dot and the empty dot on the vertical line T, and the short term decline in output is represented by the same in the next panel. So the figure clearly shows that natural on an average natural disasters results in a decline in economic activity, and basically decline in growth and output immediately after the natural disasters, but gradually these economies recover. Even the regression results are also showing the similar results. We found that in the short term, top 10 natural disasters results in a decline in economic growth of 2.01 percentage point and output loss of 0.59, but the medium term impacts are not coming statistically significant. Further, we try to see whether the growth response of large natural disasters across countries varies with their preparedness capacity. So we found that the high preparedness countries were able to avoid the output followed by natural disasters, and they were recovering from natural disasters very quickly. However, the countries with low preparedness capacities were having a very drastic decline in their growth followed by natural disasters, and even though there is a gradual improvement, but still they operate below their pre-disaster growth rate, which means their rate of recovery is comparatively less as compared to the high preparedness countries in the same lower middle income country category. So the key findings
Sorry.
of the study.
Yeah, I hope it will be the last slide, right? Because you have
Yeah, ma'am.
1 minute left.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
thank
key
you.
findings are, yeah, ma'am. It's like only two more slides. There are 2 minutes only. Yeah,
Okay.
so the key findings of the study are in the short term, natural disasters negatively affect economic growth in the short term, regardless of the disaster type. However, the magnitude of the impacts varies across sectors and type, and the agrarian nature of these economies make the agricultural sector particularly vulnerable. And with regard to their medium term impact, natural disasters do affect economic growth in the medium term, but not always negatively. There is a considerable variation in growth response across lower middle income countries depending on their level of adaptive capacity. Countries with high preparedness capacity exhibit a positive response to severe disasters, or they are able to avoid the output losses following natural disasters. In contrast, the countries with a low preparedness capacities tend to operate below their pre-disaster growth levels. So we found that the economies with a low human development, poor governance, and limited access to foreign aid and high disaster exposure tend to remain below their pre-disaster growth paths. However, more developed lower middle income countries demonstrate a faster recovery patterns and tend to perform above their pre-disaster growth rate. So in conclusion, given the similarities in the data source, the findings of the study are aligned with some of the already existing studies. However, this study adds to the existing literature by incorporating additional control variables such as overall governance quality, and we used a rich and updated data on natural disasters, providing a more comprehensive understanding. Further, the studies incorporate an additional methodology called the event study methodology alongside with the standard growth regression framework, and which provides some new estimates on the impact of large natural disasters on the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Avina VP, for your presentation. I hope you can stay with us for the time being, right? So
Okay.
so that we will be back to you. Okay. The next presentation will be by Ms. Sadia Islam Moon. She's a master's student, and her paper title is Socio-Economic Resilience for Climate Change. Climate change affected people, right? Socio-economic resilience for climate change affected people. And your co-author is Dr. Mohammad Nafis Hassan, Professor Economics, Pune University. So, Moon, it's your turn, right? So you have a presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can swap. হ্যাঁ বুঝতে পারেন তো, ওখান থেকে দেখা যাবে ভালো। তা আপনি চলে এসেন শেষক। Okay. Moon, your time starts now.
Good evening, respected chair, honorable discussant, and distinguished participants. I am Sadia Islam Munmun, a master's student in Pune University Economics discipline. Thank you for this valuable opportunity for letting me attend in this presentation session. I am honored to present my research titled Socioeconomic Resilience for Climate Change Affected People. The southwestern coastal Bangladesh is extremely vulnerable to climate change, especially increasing temperature, changing rainfall patterns, extreme tidal surges, etc. Additionally, this situation has been even more complicated by other uncertainties such as increasing economic volatility, industrialization, and deforestation, which is creating unexpected outcomes for about 40 million people living in there and gradually becoming climate refugees. This study aims to explore the factors affecting socioeconomic resilience for climate change to the people in coastal Bangladesh. To achieve this aim, the study answers to these two research questions: which factors for socioeconomic resilience, why some factors significantly affect the socioeconomic resilience while some do not. Moving on to methodological framework. The research is based on primary data which were collected from Maharajpur and Uttar Bektashi under Koira Uzela, Khulna. The study purposely chose these two study areas because these are the most hazard-prone areas in Bangladesh. As for the sampling technique, convenience sampling technique was adopted by conducting face-to-face interviews with household heads using a structured question. In analytical approach, the study adopted socioeconomic resilience indexing method for the first research question with 5 subcomponents of indicators such as financial capital, human capital, social capital, natural capital, and physical capital. A normalized index formula was adopted to calculate the standard mean, which value was ranged from 0 to 1. After the standard mean, a weighted mean was calculated where each indicators were assigned based on the experience or perceptions of both local people and researchers. The ratings of the weighted mean value was determined from 0 to 1 based on the severity of the particular indicator. Finally, with the calculated standard mean and weighted mean, the main socioeconomic resilience index was developed using the second formula. These are the indicators divided into 5 subcomponents for the resilience index. For the second research question, the study adopted order logistic regression model while categorizing the dependent variable into 3 levels: low, medium, and high. And the dependent variable was converted into a composite variable using 5 observed variables. They are household assets, market price, level of social security, level of relationship with local government, access to health care, and pure drinking water. These are the variables used for order logistic regression model. The summary statistics of the study shows that although the average number of earning member is 2, household average income is very low according to their expenditure, which increases the poverty ratio. Moreover, the dependency ratio of the two study areas is almost close to 0.5, which indicates which negatively affect the household resilience status. This is the result of socioeconomic resilience index of the study area, where the results reveal that both study areas have low resilience scores, 1.78 for Morashpur and 1.67 for Uttar Vedkashi, which indicates the Uttar Vedkashi union is comparatively more vulnerable and has a weak adaptive capacity against climate hazard. For the ordered logistic regression, while converting the dependent variable into a composite variable, the averaging approach was adopted. Its result shows that education, household income, amount of living land, market price of both communicational and household assets have significant positive relationship with the dependent variable socioeconomic resilience, whereas gender age dependency ratio has a negative impact of the study area. Based on the findings, several policy implications can be drawn for adaptive options of the study area. This study suggests that some most effective strategies to mitigate the climate risk for the study area, including increasing social awareness through community-based social organization services for capacity building, expanding diversification of fish processing, as that is the most practice of that study area.
Okay. Is it the last slide?
One more line. And gradually shifting towards the climate smart agriculture, etc. So finally, to conclude the research, this research establishes a clear and meaningful understanding on the necessity to adjustment to climate change, which encompasses any behavioral and economic structure improvement that reduces a community's vulnerability. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We all understand that whatever the papers are being presented here, they're based on secondary literature or primary surveys, and a number of econometric modeling is being practiced here. What I will request to all the presenters just to make one sentence the very key findings from your research. What is the key finding? Just in one sentence before we go to the main discussions of this panel. So be prepared for that. Just make one sentence from your research, and that will be presented in 30 seconds. Okay. And same for you. The last presentation will be on does the natural disaster shocks impact on the household food insecurity? Evidence from Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey BIHS 2018-19, and Mr. Mohammad Hasinur Rahman, Research Assistant, Center for Research, Innovation and Development. He will be presenting that. Just a question, is this the last BIHS data available, 2018 and 19? Okay, thank you. Will you go over there? Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mohammad Hassan Rahman, Research Assistant, Center for Research Innovation and Development. My research question is thus, does the natural disaster shock impact on the household food insecurity? Evidence from the Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey, BIS, 2018 and 19. So this question is also wrote when I was undergraduate student. So this is the so now come to the motivation and introduction. We also know that household food security is essential for ensure the sufficient and nutritious food, and it also strongly linked with the capital development and human productivity as well as the overall economic development. On the other hand, if you look at the natural disasters such as flood, cyclone droughts, is also create a severe crisis challenge. So this type of shocks damage agricultural productions as well as disrupt the local market and supply chain of food as well as it also decrease the income of the household. So the question is arises in our mind that does the natural any relationship between the natural disaster shock with the food insecurity? So the research is motivated by the understand how does the natural disaster shock impact on the food insecurity, household food insecurity. So now let's come to the background of the study. So according to the World Food Program, around 20 or 25% of population in Bangladesh experience moderate to severe food insecurity. And Bangladesh also experience more than 185 natural disaster shock from the 2000 to 2019. So this study is suitable for the Bangladesh because Bangladesh is a natural disaster prone country as well as the food insecurity is consistent in this country over the time. So come to the literature review. The existing literature shows that for natural disaster shock reduce the food excess as well as in the study Borua and Banerjee using this research using the household effects model, and they shows that climate shock reduce the how consumer food consumer reduce the consumer food in both quantity and quality. This another study also shows that coastal community face several food insecurity during the time of natural disaster. So there are some gaps of the existing study, like that most of the study focus on the general impact of natural disaster show. They do not show highlight the impact, focus on impact on the household level. And the important thing is that most of the study do not use the village level fixed effect. So that is the crucial. So the question is that how my research bridge this type of gaps. So at first my research will focus the household level impact, and the important things is that my research use the village level fixed effect, what is exclusive from the previous study. So this is the important factor for something. So now come to the conceptual framework of my study. The conceptual framework of my study is very straightforward. Increase the natural disaster shocks, damage the agriculture, food, and reduce the income of household. Voice turn further the household are forced to reduce the consumption food in both quantity and quality. So voice as a result the higher probability of household food insecurity. Now come to the research method. This research is quantitative in nature, and I use the logic model, and I also use the village level fixed effect to control the unobserved regional difference. So this is the economic model for my research, that where the f is dependent variables. This is the binary in nature. Y is equal to 1 if household experience a natural disaster shock, or 0 mean others. So S is the expanded variable, which is also binary in nature, and that equals 1. That means household experience a natural disaster shock, or 0 means household do not experience a natural disaster shock. And X1 is a vector of control variables, which include household total expenditure, household size, and household remittance. So the control variable household total expenditure and household size is continuous in nature, and household remittance is also binary. So X represent the village level fixed area and use the euro terms. So there is hypothesis of a researcher that null hypothesis, that means the natural disaster should have no significant effect on the household, and alternative hypothesis shows that natural disaster shocks have impact on the household food etc. So if the coefficient shock have positive, that means the natural disaster shock have positive impact on the food insecurity, or if it is negative, that means natural disaster shock have negative impact on the household food scale. So I take the data from the BIS after dropping the missing value, only 5,065 observations are analyzed. So let's come to the finding of my research paper. This shows the KRL or finding also support the alternative hypothesis, that means natural disaster shocks have significantly positive impact on the household food insecurity. That means it is clear that household facing natural disaster shocks are about 9% likely to be more food insecure than those who do not face the natural disaster shocks. And the household total expenditures has a negative impact on the food insecurity. That means if the household total expenditure increased by 1 unit, that means the probability of household food insecurity will be decreased by 1%, because the total expenditure means the more purchasing power of household. That means a household will be able to consume more food, and they will be face face despite of any critical situation of natural disaster. So the another thing is that household size is also negative impact on the household food insecurity. That means if a household size increased by one member, that means the probability of household insecurity will decrease by 1%. So then last thing is that household external remittance status which has also negative impact. That means if a household with has remittance status has less as more about has about 14% is less likely to be food insecure than those who do not have the remittance status. So this is a graph for comparison. Left hand side is comparison mean household food insecurity across the natural disaster shocks. It is clear that those households who experience natural disaster shocks have higher mean household insecurity than those households who have no experience of food insecurity. So because how natural disaster shocks hampered the agricultural production as well as the reduce the income of household. When the crops are destroyed, that means it will reduce the supply of the food in the market, while further lead to increase the price of the food. On that time, since it is also decrease the income of the household, so household unable to buy this enough type of nutritious food, that means it will increase the probability of food insecurity for the household. And the right hand side the graph shows that there is a comparison mean household insecurity across the division areas. It is clear that Rangpur has a higher food insecurity, and the Khulna and Dhaka also has a lower security, because it's clear that food insecurity can be verified the geographical location and the government support as well as the market accessibility in this region. So that's why I have to use the village level fixed effect to control the region difference and unobserved difference. So the conclusion of my study is that after using the K finding, that it is true that natural disaster shocks significantly increase the food insecurity of the household and food insecurity household, and like a household income, household total expenditure and remittance can be perform a coping mechanism to combat the food insecurity. And there is some policy implication we can state that the disaster preparedness and response system will be stronger and promote the climate resilient agriculture to ensure the stable food production during the show. And we can also develop the social protection program, as well as we can develop in the capacity of the vulnerable region people to cope up with this crisis under the natural disaster. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all the presenters. So before going to Mr. Mamatuhin Ahmed, our eminent discussant, I would like to ask the presenters to make a brief on their key outcomes from the research. First, Mr. Mohammad Shahidul Islam. It will be just for 30 seconds.
Thank you, ma'am. My study particularly examined trade market imperfection based on inefficiency, inequalities along with socio-economic variable. The key finding is the main inefficiencies is collateral that includes immovable assets for formal lender, group security for semi-formal lender, and personal security for informal lender.
Okay.
And main inequalities is farm size that include marginal farm, small farm, medium farm, and large farm. And the main variable for socio-economic factors is education and household size, as well as farmers' intention, interest with behavioral and institutional factors. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Miss Abina, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So may I request you to say few one line from the key findings of yours.
Yes, ma'am. So, my study is basically an empirical re-examination on the economic impact of natural disasters in lower middle income countries. So, the key finding of the study is that natural disasters affect economic growth negatively, but the rate of recovery will vary depending upon their level of resilience capacity.
Thank you. Munmun, what's your finding?
My study's key finding is that low level of socioeconomic resilience occurs due to the lack of preparedness before a climatic events, responsiveness during the events, and degree to recovery after any events. So the factors that make this situation happens are high illiteracy rate, low household income, having not enough access to communicational assets, and dependency on the household heads. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. And Mohammad Hassanur Rahman, what is your key findings?
Thank you, ma'am. My main key finding of my research paper was also objective of my research that natural disasters should have positive impact on the household food insecurity, as well as the household total expenditure also negative impact on the household food insecurity, and the household size as well as the household remittances also have the negative impact on the household food insecurity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So actually, I was sometimes lost in an econometric modelings and all the jargon. So uh, just for that. I would like to request Mr. Mohammad Tuhin Ahmed, Deputy Director SANEM and Lecturer Maulana Bhashani Science and Technology University, Bangladesh, to discuss on the papers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and good evening to everyone. All the four papers that have already presented is very interesting and I think amazing. But I have some concerns and feedback on each of the papers. I start that one by one. The first paper is on addressing the rural credit market imperfection in financing climate change adaptations, behavioral insights from rice farmer in northwestern Bangladesh. So the strength of this paper is that basically it addresses the potential indigeneity and applies the 2S LS profit model. So this is the strength, and I think this model is suitable for indigenous regressors in a binary outcome framework. And the concern is that one of the concern is that in the sample size determinations, like so, the study uses the Yamine formula for determining the sample size, but we know that for large sample size, social sciences researchers mainly uses Cochrane's formula to determine the sample size. My question is why you use Yamine formula instead of Cochrane's? Why not Cochrane's? Because Cochrane's formula helps to understand the variability, addresses the variability issues, etc. The second one is your paper uses several categorical variables like farm size, property rights, but you didn't mention which one is your base category, right? So without the base category, the interpretation is very difficult and understanding is also very difficult. And you simultaneously used farm size and collateral related variables. And larger farms are typically associated with a higher asset ownership. So there might be high correlation between farm size and collateral. So I think the paper should include the multi-collinearity test and show the results of BI. So that I think it will help to address the multiple community issues. And also, I suggest that the paper should benefit from including some post-distribution tests like test for heteroscedasticity and of course the model specification as well. And I think I'm not clear one point like what is the formal and semi-formal loan sources of loan. So what is the semi-formal and how it differs from the formal sources? So if you clarify it, it will be
That is
better.
one of my questions as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Then move on the second paper. The second paper on like growth after the storm, revisiting the economic impact of natural disasters in low and middle income countries by Ms. Abhina VP. So here is also the strength. The main strength of this paper is uses the GMM method, two-step GMM method, which addresses the indigeneity issues. So this is the strength of this paper. But I think this paper can benefit from a clear and more explicit articulation of the research gap. While the topic is relevant, the manuscript does not sufficiently clarify what is missing in the existing literature and how the study differ from the previous empirical work and what specific contributions it make to the literature. So I think this can bring the benefits to the literature sections. And the paper also constructed a index like a human loss index, and it is weighted. And the weight is defined like 0.7 for mortality and 0.3 for affected population. My question is how the weight is defined.
And how the ranking has come up.
Yes, and how is the justification behind giving this weight? And another one is the paper employs the panel data model. So the main concern for the panel data model is the cross-sectional dependence. So the paper, I think the paper should test the cross-sectional dependence test like Perasan 2004 test. And if there is any correlation exists, then we can't rely on the first generation test. Then we move to the second generation test. So I think this paper should go for the cross-sectional dependency test. And also, I have seen that the paper doesn't report any post-estimation tests like multi-collinearity, and you uses two variables like labor force participation rate and educations. So if there is higher educations, then labor force participation rate will be higher. That means these two variables might be correlated. So if this correlation exists, then the OLS equation, then the equation may be biased. So I think you also should test the multicollinearity. And next, move on the third paper, the socio-economic resilience for climate change affected people by Ms. Sadia Islam Munmun. So this paper actually addresses some important policy relevance issues like through examining the relationship between socio-economic factors that affects the resilience, right? So, and the model basically uses a descriptive statistics and then an ordered logic model. And basically, the paper construct
index, like a resilience index, and try to find out what are the factors that affected the resilience. So here is also my questions. How your resilience index is differ from the, there are huge literature on resilience in the topic of climate change adaptation. So how what is the different your resilience index is how different from the existing literature? That's on questions. And another question is sample size distribution. So how your sample is distribution among the two regions, and the sample size is 100, just 120. So we know for large population, the sample size was the minimum sample size is 384 according to Cochrane's formula. So how you justify using this small sample size? And another question is the uses of ordered logic model. We know that the ordered logic model basically assumes a strong assumptions like the parallel regression assumption. So the paper didn't test whether there is any parallel trend. If parallel trend exists, then you go beyond the ordered logic model. You should run the generalized ordered logic model. So I think you should check the validity of the parallel regression assumptions. And the paper uses two variables like income and expenditure simultaneously. So I think if income is high, then expenditure will also be high. So there might be highly income and expenditure might be highly correlated. So I think you should use one, like either income or expenditure, not simultaneously. And the paper also uses two variables like household size and dependence ratio. I think this is also problematic. These two might be highly correlated. And also this paper uses all the variables as explanatory variables like number of earning members. So if number of earnings member is larger or greater, then obviously the earnings might be higher. So these two will be correlated. So I think multi-correlated test and other post-distribution tests like heteroscedasticity should apply, and the paper I think benefit from here. Now, moving on the last paper, does the natural disaster shock impact on the households food insecurity? Evidence from the Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey. And this paper is presented by Hasin Rahman. Thank you. And one of the main problem with this paper is that the generation of the dependent variable. We know that APO they actually generate or construct a index like food insecurity index based on 8 questions. But this paper actually uses a binary variable. Either the household is food insecure or food secure. So then I think to define a binary variable can't capture the severity of the insecurity. So to capture the severity of food insecurity, I think the paper should should use food insecurity index instead of binary variable, or the paper should create a variable, categorical variable like food insecurity status, where the dependent variable should include 4 categories. One would be no food insecurity, the second will be mild food insecurity, third will be moderate food insecurity, or the fourth will be the severe food insecurity. Then I think the paper can use ordered logic models and can benefit, can show the severity of the food insecurity from this model. And I think the paper can suffer from the omitted variable bias. This is because of this variable exclude some of the important household level variables like sex of the household head, like household earning members, any household member is working in decent job or like that. So these variables, if we exclude this variable, then the omitted variable bias can create. So I think the paper should include these most important variables. And the last comment is that the paper uses two important variables like household total expenditure and remittance status. So you think if a household receive remittance, then their expenditure might be higher. That means remittance and household expenditures might be highly correlated. I don't know whether the paper said this multiplicative issue as well. Thank you. I think these papers can benefit from these comments and feedback. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sure, Tuhin, the papers will be greatly benefited from the comments. And thanks for your detailed comments. And I would request the researchers to give an attention to the detailed comments. And I'm sure you will be benefited from those if you can integrate it, the comments accordingly. He pointed out some of the methodological issues that is very critical. Which might enhance the credibility of the research in terms of selection of sample sizes, the biases, the definition. For example, the unbundling of the concept of food security, and very correctly mentioned that if we place food security as in a binary situation. Food security and food insecurity, that doesn't depict the gravity of the problem actually. Avina, I hope you're listening and you have got your insights, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. If the audience have a very quick reflection or one or two questions, we'll be happy to take that. If you have very quick questions. And if not, we will directly go to the discussions. Okay, so I will request the presenters, to say your last words just in 1.5 minutes. Don't need to answer every bit of questions or the issues raised by Mr. Tuhin, but try to be focused on the main issues. Why you have done this or why not? What will be the, constraints on that? Okay, 1.5 minutes for each of the presenters. Abhinav, I will be getting to you after the first presenter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it working?
No, ma'am.
Let me check. But I think it's a small room and we all can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Thank you for the constructive comments. We acknowledge this issue. After revised manuscript, we would like to add these issues. But I would like to clear something. For multi-collinearity test, we perform VIF. The value of VIF is less than 5. So there is no multi-collinearity issues in our paper. In terms of heterogeneity, we would like to edit limitations, or if we find a way, we can revise it or revise manuscript. And regarding semi-formal and informal lenders, formal lenders, particularly means formal banks like Bangladesh Bank authorized, and they are obeyed the rules of Bangladesh Bank. For example, Sonali Bank, Rupali Bank, Break Bank. In terms of semi-formal bank, semi-formal represents microfinance institution or microcredit institution, include Grameen Bank, Break Bank, as they are authorized by Bangladesh Bank, but they only obey their own rules.
They are not authorized by Bangladesh Bank, but they're governed under MRA, Microcredit Regulatory Authority, and they are also very much formal financial arrangements.
Thank you, ma'am. in terms of informal lenders that include relatives, friends, or other lenders.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, Ms. Abina VP,
Yeah.
I'm going to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sir for your valuable comments and suggestion. So I have some quick replies. Regarding the weights that I had assigned to the human loss index, it is purely based on the IMF 2003 criterion, and the different weights they have justified the different weights because there are two indicators. One is people affected, and the other one is people killed. So people affected includes those who are missing, injured, and homeless, etc. So it's very difficult to define whether the injuries are minor or severe. And but so and The other indicator is people killed. So it's very easy to define, as well as population is more sensitive to those natural disasters which where the mortalities are high. So that are the justification that they have given for giving different weights to these two indicators. And regarding the cross-sectional dependencies, I have not tested it. So thank you so much for this comment. So I will be trying to look into that issue. And regarding the multicollinearity issue, I have checked the multicollinearity and I have given those results in the appendix. So that thing I have addressed. So I hope these all are the broad comments that these are the broad comments that you had given, and I'll be considering all these things to enhance my paper.
Thanks, Abina. Thanks, Munmu. Now it's your turn.
Thank you, ma'am. For my concerns, the first question was how is the index different? Uh, the index socio-economic resilience index that I developed in my studies, I considered five subcomponents for the index, and the variables are selected based on several papers and several recent papers. Moreover, I assign weight based on a local person or respondents who was uh, considered as the expert, and moreover, I also assigned some weights myself, such as the variables. As the researchers, that I provided the weights on the indicators such as poverty ratio, household literacy, etc., from 1 to 5. The range of the weight was from 1 to 5, and the local people or responded or the experts who provided the weights of the variables such as local security, level of local security, relationship with the local governments, and etc. And as for the other,
So it is basically perception based.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As for the other concerns, I run correlation test, and I will try to address the other concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hasinur Rahman.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, as well as thank you, Honorable Discussion, for his valuable comment for my study. And I will take into account, consider his valuable comment for my further study. Actually, initial of my research paper, I did not intend to the severity of the natural disaster shock on the food insecurity. I just want to know that, examine that does natural disaster shock impact or not. That's why I do not take into account the dependent variable in the category wise. First case. Then second case is that the household with remittance status and household total expenditure has the correlation with does there a chance to be multicollinearity relationship. In this case, I also check the multicollinearity and pairwise correlation check. All this result will be give me the positive signal. That's why I conduct my study. So thank you for the honorable discussion and chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the young researchers, for your excellent effort and a nice presentation. And especially, I would like to thank our young discussant. And I'm very much impressed the way he presented his insights on the methodological issues. And I think that is very much helpful. That will be very much helpful if those will be addressed by the researchers. Just 1 or 2 minutes from my side. As a researcher, as a practitioner, economist in the field of climate change, how I frame my research. First of all, coming back to the last presenters and his last word, that he explored only whether there is any impact of climate, any impact of natural disaster on household food security, right? It's a binary, yes or no, right? What is disaster? If an event doesn't make any dent negatively, it's not a disaster. It's not a shock. A wind speed 150 miles per hour, it may turn into a disaster, or the same 150 kilometer per hour wind speed may not turn into a disaster if you have enough preparedness. So it's all about resilience. It's all about the adaptive capacity and how you prepare yourselves. So if you tell that the weather natural disaster have a negative effect on food security, obviously yes. If you say if a natural event having having beyond a certain threshold, whether or not it will cause any negative impact, that will be a question to answer. But if you say whether a disaster affect, obviously it does. So you need to be very careful regarding the adoption of a word, technical word. What does it mean? And I'm telling you, everybody. For example, um, rural credit market imperfection in financing climate change adaptation. So, in your methodology, you have taken almost 500 farmers to deal with, right? And their behaviors. But whether you have asked whether or not these farmers are practicing adaptation technologies in their farming, or they are continuing with their regular practices. For example, whether or not they are using groundwater irrigation in the same rate as they have been doing it in previous years. So that is not an adaptation modality as well, right? So it's not only the farmers, but the farmers who are adapting against climate change. So these are some of the basic questions you need to frame when you get into detailed methodologies. And the same concept of natural disaster, I would request to explore Miss Abina in his in her PhD journey. I would like to, and of course, the resilience, how I can forget. The resilience is an overarching conceptual framework. And under that, adaptation, mitigation, beyond going climate change, all it comes together. Economic growth, socioeconomic growth, and it's nothing new that who have a better adaptive capacity, they can be better resilient. It's a long-standing findings that we have been working on. So I would request everybody here, most of you are from economics discipline, we bog down to regression analysis, we bog down to logic probit, we bog down to multicollinearity analysis. But before getting into that, why we are doing that? What is the concept? And after doing that, what will be the key messages from that, and what new and additional knowledge I'm receiving from that? That is the main fundamental question that we need to ask for ourselves. Thank you very much for your fascinating, efforts, and I think as I'm getting older, I will frequently meet you guys over the years, and I'll be very happy to learn from your insights and your flourishment as an academician and as a practitioner. Thank you very much. Yeah. And we have the plenary session at 5:15, right? Thank you.
Ma'am, I'd like to request you to hand over the certificate to
Sure.
the representatives.
Thank you. হাসিনুর রহমান, তুহিন আপনি সামনে আসেন। হাসিনুর রহমান, আপনারা কি একটু দাঁড়াবেন? আবিনা, we will miss you. এটা হাসিনুর রহমান তো, রাইট? ওকে। থ্যাংক ইউ। অনেক আগের ডেটা কিন্তু প্রেজেন্টেড হয়েছে, রাইট? এটা একটু HEIS দিয়েও ইয়ে করা যায়, আপডেট করা যায়, রাইট? আচ্ছা, মুনমুন। থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম। আচ্ছা, মুনমুন, তুহিন, জি আসেন। আমার খুব ভালো লেগেছে, আপনারা চেষ্টা করেছেন, ভালো কাজ করেছেন। শহীদুল, আচ্ছা মুনমুন চলে আসেন এদিকে, দেখি তুহিন আসেন আপনি। And I'm sure there will be some communication with Abina, for the handover of this member. Yeah. আপনি দাঁড়িয়ে যান, ওদিকে দাঁড়িয়ে যান। এই দাঁড়ান, এই তুমি চলে আসো, এদিকে চলে আসো। তুমি চলে আসো, তুমিও অনেক হেল্প করেছো আমাদেরকে। আসো।
এটা জাস্ট কনসিডার সিঙ্গেল সবাইকে তো দাঁড়াই।
থ্যাংক ইউ, থ্যাংক ইউ।
কোনটা বলবেন?
তাহলে এখন শেষ করি আমরা। আচ্ছা, সবাই মিলে একটু তুলবো না
একসাথে?
সবাই মিলে একটু সার্টিফিকেটটা নিয়ে। ওকে, আসে। আমার ছাত্র জীবনে তো এগুলো পেলে কত না, খুবই ভালো হয়েছে। থ্যাংক ইউ।